Welcome everyone to the Row by Row the Garden Show, the best dadgum gardening show on the internet and the radio as well. Glad to have you this evening, glad to be here, and we got Wayne Odom from Lakewood Farms. Yep. How about that? How you doing, Wayne?
I'm good. Glad to be back.
It's that time of year where, man, it's hot down here in South Georgia.
Man, I've been sweating, changing shirts 3 times a day.
Really?
It's terrible.
And what you got going on in the garden?
Well, I just picked or cut my asparagus. Last time for cutting it. Need to let the rest grow for get some nutrients for the next year.
Asparagus is one of the things that just keeps on giving.
Really?
Yeah. When do you start? I normally cut mine for about 6 to 8 weeks a year.
Well, mine's a smaller bed, not as old, so I'm trying to. This has been the best year for my asparagus, so I've got a lot from it. But I'm just trying to stop now to see how it'll do next year.
Yeah.
I moved it. You're not supposed to move them, but I moved to a different spot. It's getting a little bit better area, sun, water, so I'm excited about it.
So I seen on Facebook the other day you was cutting some zinnias.
Zinnias are, man, I just went out there and they are neck high. They're tall. They're beautiful. It's been a good year for zinnias.
Yeah, it has.
My wife's happy, so I'm happy.
Hey, that's all that matters. What about your bees? Are they happy?
Bees are good. I got stung. I harvested 100 pounds of honey.
Wow. Which is how many gallons?
2 5-gallon buckets.
2 5-gallon buckets of honey. That would be enough. And I use a lot of honey, but I could survive a year off of that.
Oh, God. We do. We usually survive a year off of 5 gallons. I could have harvested more, but they didn't have it capped enough. Water content wasn't right, so I left it, and I might harvest that again this fall.
Now, that harvesting the honey is a fun thing to do, but that's a job.
It's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
You're talking about picking up a 70,
Yep.
80-pound box of honey and bringing it to the kitchen, and your wife's mad because it's splattering everywhere and getting everything sticky.
Yep.
But it's a lot on an old man.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We had some clover one year, and we gathered 5 gallons off of a couple of hives.
That's 50 pounds.
Yeah, it was a lot of honey. It was enough to last for a year, but we started like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was after dark before we got through cleaning up. And I thought to myself, and I even borrowed an extractor, which made life a lot easier. But I couldn't imagine it. Yeah, doing that every day, you'd have to have better equipment and a better setup than what we had.
And when you pay $10 or $12 for a small box,
it mounts up. Plus, you know what you got, so you know it's your honey. So you know, that's good stuff. I think more people should do that. Should have bees, and I understand everybody's not a bee person, but it's interesting to do. You can learn a lot from life from bees.
You can get a lot of things. We already talked about that. It's fun.
So what else in the garden?
I have peppers,
okra.
I have olives. You ever had an olive tree?
Never had an olive tree.
I put some up last year. It's a pretty neat experience.
So we do pretty good here in South Georgia growing olives?
Yeah, they're starting to grow olives in South Georgia for olive oil. There's some between here and Albany, matter of fact. So I just have a couple trees just for the enjoyment and landscape around the yard. And I have tomatoes.
You got tomatoes?
Well, I have tomatoes and tomato plants, but my tomatoes aren't doing well.
What's wrong?
Blossom end rot. Every year I grow tomatoes, usually do pretty well. This year I had good vines, tall, loaded with tomatoes, and this is what I get.
So that can be very frustrating.
It's frustrating. When you have a tomato these are not even the right size yet, but when you start seeing that on your tomatoes, it's bad.
What do you say we dig into that a little deeper
You need
today?
to tell me how to grow tomatoes.
We'll dig into blossom end rot today because it's that time of the year where everybody is getting really frustrated with blossom end rot. So I said, what a better time us to do a deep dive into blossom end rot because there's so much misinformation out there, and we're going to try to clear some of that up. But not only that, we're going to try to give you a clear strategy of how to combat blossom end rot. How about that? That work for you?
That's what we need, bad.
All right.
Because I need a good tomato sandwich.
You do. It's nothing no better.
Homegrown.
Homegrown. So for our product of the week, I got to show people this right here. Our product of the week is not this champion radish here, but it's actually these trays. So we just got these trays in, and these trays have been newly designed out of England. Actually, a microgreen grower out of Canada and a guy out of England that I do some business with developed these microgreen trays. And he talked me into us carrying them because we've never done a lot with microgreens before, but we've been doing a lot of work in the last 6 months with this, testing and whatnots. And you know what? This is a game changer for us. And I'm going to show you what they look like without anything in them. They're real shallow. And you got 2 different ones. You got one with a hole, and you got one without a hole. Now, if you're used to growing microgreens, you understand the importance of both of those. But if you're not, then that's probably something we'll dig into a little later. But you got a catch basin for that particular one that you're growing your microgreens in right there. What's the neat about this is it doesn't take much soil, and you really don't need much soil. Soil is kind of a waste. You don't need no more than what you actually need. So these are real shallow, and it also gives you the opportunity, when you cut these microgreens, you got plenty of room to get in there and cut them. Now, Wayne, you probably never had a microgreen before.
I've never grown any, but I've been wanting to.
Well, this particular one here is a champion.
Pretty green microgreen.
This is a champion radish, is the variety. Radishes do good as microgreens. Got my big old fancy knife out there. And you know how old these are? 11 days.
They're not, yeah.
11 days. So in 11 days, you can harvest microgreens. Now, you can eat these as a salad, or you can eat them as a garnish. There you go. How about that right there? I'll partake with you. Radishes are really good. There's several different ones out there. I brought radishes today because they're looking good. We got several different ones planted. You know the most popular microgreen? Sunflower.
That tastes like a radish. I didn't think the green would taste like a radish, but it does.
It does.
You don't have to buy the radish. Just grow these.
It's got a good earthy flavor, just a little tinge on a little heat on the end of it. Did you get that?
Well, that's good, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not bland like your lettuces would be.
And it's not as strong as a radish. You know, some radishes you buy and it's like...
A little more heat there than I thought was there.
It's got some heat.
It's got some heat there on that.
That'd be perfect for a salad.
Salad, or you could garnish, heck, pasta or anything with it. So anyway, we're doing a lot of work with that. And we got these on the site, these microgreen trays on the site now. So go check those out. We're going to sell them probably in 5 packs, 10 packs. We may sell them, I don't know, maybe 2 pairs, something like that. But they are neat. You don't take a lot of pot and soil there. You got plenty of room to harvest your microgreens. And I think microgreens have a lot of potential.
I'm going to bring a pack home with me today.
Sure. And I'll give you some, I may even give you a couple of trays. How about that?
Hey, I'll take them.
We're doing a lot of work with microgreens. And so for the next few weeks, we're going to be doing a lot of detailed things about how to grow them, how to prepare them, how to eat them, things like that. The thing about a microgreen is it takes no fertilizer. All you're eating is that green part there that comes from the energy of that soil. And you can grow them in pretty much a sterile soil. Now, this is a regular seed starting mix here, but it has no pesticides whatsoever. It has no fertility. So that's as healthy as it gets. That thing there is, you can tell how green it is. It's loaded with
You need to try these.
All your antioxidants and all that kind of stuff. So it's a great way to feed your family and yourself a good, healthy green. Have it when you want it, and be proud.
I didn't think it had much of a flavor, but that's surprising.
Yeah. Now the sunflowers to me have a little bit of a nutty flavor. Mm-hmm. I think you could probably do a combination 2 or 3 and mix them together, and that'd be wonderful in like a salad. But anyway, so tomatoes are coming in right now, and one of the things I wanted us to do today, and I wanted you to be on the show particularly, Wayne, because of. I feel like you have this distinctive, mature palate. And we're going to do a taste testing today.
I don't know. Ivy might tell you my palate is either good or bad.
Well, it's yours.
It is.
And it's mature.
But I think I can tell you on a tomato.
Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to do some in-depth tomato tasting. Now, I have my theories on this right here, and I want to talk to everybody about it.
Well, since you said that, I think last time I came and I had to taste the tomato, didn't have any pepper.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't have any mayonnaise.
Oh my goodness.
So I got some salt, pepper, mayonnaise, and some white bread.
A tomato sandwich. Does it get any better than that?
It doesn't.
I've often said that is my favorite food. And you know what? You brought the right kind of mayonnaise.
Duke's.
There's only one kind of mayonnaise. Duke's.
Now there is a good one, black pepper. Kraft black pepper, olive oil. Ooh,
I've not tried that one.
If you can find that, that is good stuff.
I've been having trouble getting away from Duke's. Yeah,
it's sweet on a tomato sandwich.
So the thing I want to test first is this right here. So on tomatoes, we see that there's a lot of different color variances on tomatoes. Now this particular one right here is a purple boy. Now that looks like an heirloom tomato, doesn't it?
Yep.
But it's not. Now his granddaddy was. But they took his granddaddy, which was a Cherokee Purple, if I'm not mistaken, and they bred him to have more disease resistance and be a hardier tomato, and for us to be able to grow it in the South and yet still have the same color and the same texture and the flavor of that Cherokee Purple. So wouldn't it be nice if you had a good tasting tomato, a good looking tomato, and it was disease resistant.
Would be.
Well, that's what you got right here. Now, this is an indeterminate, which means that it will grow and grow and grow. And indeterminates have a little bit different growth habit than a determinate does, but that's what this is. And it's my first year growing it, but it's a keeper in my book. This one has done real well for us.
You consider a tomato a vegetable or a fruit?
A tomato is a fruit.
I consider it a vegetable. Supposedly, botanical terms, it's a fruit.
The reason is,
but nutritionist terms,
right. The reason it's a fruit because it has the seed in it. So anything that has a seed in it is considered fruit. I once gave a talk to some third graders at school, and I asked that question, and you knew the whole class knew it. I was like, wow.
Did they?
He did. I was like, wow.
He's a good teacher.
He's a good teacher. So we got these tomatoes here. So my theory on this right here is that precious color right there, which is that deep red. Is that tomato going to taste different than this potato simply because of the way it looks?
Should.
It should, because we think your eyes predispose things to a different flavor, right?
I would think this would be sweeter than this one, but I don't know.
And you would think this would be more acidy or more tomato flavor. And then we have a determinate variety here, which is called a red snapper. Now that's a big old slice of tomato that we used to grow.
That'll fit on that piece of bread.
Exactly. So we got that right there, and we got a couple of these small ones here that we're going to do after the fact. But let's do these first. What we want to do, Wayne, is we want to blindfold you so we can get a true tasting from these tomatoes. And we want to see on a scale of 1 to 5, where do you profile these at without you being able to see the color?
Okay. I've never had this variety of tomatoes before, so it'll be interesting.
So it'd be interesting. So we're dealing with 2 indeterminates. One is the purple boy. We're dealing with the lemon boy, and we're dealing with the red snapper. Let me see. I'm supposed to have some cards here somewhere. But I think they have, anyhow, I got this right here. I can deal with that. So, here comes the famous.
All right, now if you start seeing something drip down my chin, please
wipe it off. Yeah, it'll be okay. You just take your tongue and get it up. Okay, do you want me to put this, or you can do it?
I don't care.
Okay. Now, you got to be honest with us. You can't be peeking. You going to leave your glasses?
Let me take my glasses off. I'm all about honesty. So I'm going to give you a true.
You're going to give us a true. Now, you can't. You don't need to be able to see anything.
We better tie it again because it'll fall off.
Yeah, we don't want to fall off.
Okay.
So you good? You can't see anything?
No, I'm good.
Boy, it'd be a bad time to trick you, wouldn't it? That would be mean, wouldn't it?
Behave, Greg.
That would be mean. You know, I've been done that way before. Giving a hot pepper when I'm supposed to be getting a tomato. Okay.
Do I need to? You gonna hand it to me?
I'm just getting everything. Just chill a little bit. When you get a little ahead of yourself here. Yep. So we got to do this thing so that it is, it's right. Make sure we get everything just so. You can't smell that. Can you smell that tomato? You can't
I'm
smell
not good at smelling things.
Yeah. Let me get a little bit more. Let me get one of these right here. That's a big old boy right there.
Now this is not going to be a mud shake or anything, is it?
No, this is not going to be a mud shake. I wouldn't do you that way. Let's see if I can. What I'm doing is I'm doing some fairly slim slices there, so that this is going to be a little bit awkward. I guess I could feed these to you.
No, I can do it.
What about if I just put it on the fork for you? How about that?
Let me have the fork.
Okay, so the first one we're going to do here. Let me get it on the fork here for you.
I mean, you want me to grate it when I eat it? Or
I do. I think that would be the perfect time to do that. So here's your fork right here. Okay, so I got you a pretty good slice on that. Now eat that tomato there and tell me what you think about that one. Give me some insight on the flavor. Is that different to you, or does that taste like a regular tomato, or what?
That tastes like a regular tomato. To me, it's not very acidic.
It's not very acidic. Okay.
The texture is a little mushy on the mushy side. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's a basic average tomato.
Basic average tomato. Okay.
I mean, if I had a tomato sandwich,
it's all about what it tastes like. That's what you think a tomato should taste like, right?
That's right. That would be a good tomato sandwich.
Okay. All right. So if I can have the fork back.
Okay.
You doing okay?
Yep.
All right.
I have to rate it now or later.
I tell you what.
I'd rate that. I don't have others to taste, so it's kind of hard.
So hold off. Let's just hold off. Okay. Okay. Here's number 2.
That one, the texture is better than the first one.
Better or different? Or would be better in your book, I'm
No,
assuming.
it's not the same tomato, is
Yeah. Well, we don't know.
Don't mess with it. I think the texture was better. It was thinner. It looks like maybe feels like you cut that one thinner, but the texture was better. The flavor, it was. I don't have a good vocabulary of words.
Was it less acidic or more acidic or?
Probably less.
Less?
I think it was less.
Okay. All right. So we're dealing with some pretty complex, different colors. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is number 3 on the.
Do I need to drink wine or water?
No, you're
just
good.
beforehand?
You're good.
That's a good tomato.
Hmm.
That's juicy. Had some good flavor. A little acidic.
But there's something there that's a little different.
That one was different to me.
Really?
It really was.
Wow.
If you messed with me now, I'm not coming back. But that was a good tomato.
Yeah.
That would make a real good, that would make a juicy tomato where it just drips down your
Yeah,
farm.
yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Okay,
That's
Benz,
my
you
favorite
still
so
got the, let's leave the blindfold on and let's talk about those 3 for just a minute.
Okay.
Give me a 1 to 5 on all 3 of those, and 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, and let's start out with number 1.
Number 1 would be a 3.
Number 1 would be a 3, and that was number 1. Okay.
Let me change that.
Okay.
Number 1 will be, because I hate to rate, they were all good tomatoes. Number 1 will be a 4.
Number 1 is a 4.
Number 2 would be a 3.
That's cool.
And then number 3 would be a 5 tops.
Really?
My favorite.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so then as we got that under control, let's do a couple more things. Now, I got a couple of cherry tomatoes I want you to try.
Okay.
And they are a little difference in color too. So, first of all, we're going to try this one.
Now, I'm usually not a cherry tomato fan.
Well, I know, but it is what it is. These babies here, I think they're going to be, that's good that you can't see where I'm at.
I can't see.
Okay, that's the one you're trying right there.
Oh.
Now, most of the time, the cherry tomatoes have a different flavor.
It's different texture. It's not as juicy.
A little more punch, maybe?
Yeah, totally different flavor. Hard to describe the flavor. Chewy, tougher, firm, I guess. I mean, you can make a tomato sandwich with them. You put a whole bunch of little small slices all over it. But it would not be my favorite tomato for a tomato sandwich. It has more of a bitter, a little bitter.
A little bitter? Interesting.
That's the only way I can describe it.
Okay.
Bitter.
All right, so just give me a second here and let me throw another one on you. How about that?
Bring it on.
Bring it on. You're doing so good, Wayne. I tell you. I knew you would be good on a taste testing.
I don't have anything in my teeth, do I?
You don't have anything in your teeth, but I knew you'd do well with this right here because you have that mature. You know what that means? You got a little age on. You got that
I
mature.
have a little bit of age. After I watch this
palate.
video. Well, that was probably my favorite cherry tomato.
Really?
It was a little acidic. It was very juicy. Very texture was not as tight or as bad as that first one. I wouldn't say bad, but different than the first one. But that was a good cherry tomato.
Okay, so let's rate those 2 and give me the first one.
First one a 3.
3.
And the second one a 4. And I probably should give it a 5, but it's a 4 because I'm not a fan of cherry tomatoes.
Okay, cool. All right, let's take the blindfold. Let's talk this thing out. This was interesting. This was very interesting today for me. I think if I would have done the taste test, I think we would have done the exact same. From what I think, I think we would have done the exact same thing. So, normally speaking, what I have been told, and the seed lady from Sakata that we had on a couple weeks ago explained this to me. She said indeterminates normally have a better flavor profile than determinants. I argued that fact with her because I've never grown a lot of indeterminates. And I said, we always grew these big tomatoes.
I never knew the difference till I watched your show.
But
I just grew a tomato.
But there is a difference in the flavor of these. And this is really interesting. So your worst pick, your third pick on this right here was
That one.
the red snapper, which is a determinant. You thought that one had the least amount of flavor. Okay. Your second one was the purple one.
And I like the other one.
But your favorite one, by far,
It's good tomato.
was the yellow one. And I would totally agree with you on that one. These are the ones I've been eating on my tomato sandwiches of late. Now, I've eaten a couple of these right here. But this, to me, if I've had one thing this year that really stepped out and made a huge impression on me, it was this tomato right here.
If I went to a tomato buffet and all these were laid out sliced where you could make a tomato sandwich, I would never go pick that. I mean, I would now.
Yeah, but you wouldn't. You would never pick that kind of tomato over that tomato any day of the week, much less that particular.
I grew up eating those.
Right. So that just shows you color does have an impact on what we choose, or maybe our impression of the flavor. So I was interested on this one. Now, this was another that was interesting to me. So on this one, that is actually, we got this from BGO Seeds right here. That has a crimson gene in it. And it also affects the color because it has a nice dark red color, but also it has a flavor profile there that they call it the crimson. Now, this was your least favorite. Your most favorite was this one right here, which if you don't know how friendly the camera's going to be on that, but that's actually more of a pinkish tomato. Yeah, it didn't have a dark. That's a rosy finish.
Very similar to this one.
Yeah, it's a new variety we've carried this year. It makes a really small. It makes a really small plant. It's a compact. It does good in pots, and you're going to get one of those in a pot today as a going away show present.
Thank you.
Yep. So that's interesting. So this was your favorite cherry tomato, the Rosy Finch. Yep. And Lemon Boy won out big time, would you say?
I would eat a tomato sandwich tonight.
What do you say? Let's make one.
I'll do it.
Okay. As you're doing that, I'm going to dig into some of our Blossom End Rot. How about that?
Hand me your paper towel over there.
Okay. Because you
like a lot of mayonnaise?
I like a little mayonnaise, not a lot.
Salt and pepper?
Oh, I love salt and pepper, yeah. And you gotta let it sweat just a little bit on that. How about that? All right. So on the Blossom End Rot, we've had a lot of people on our group or emailing customer service complaining about you need this knife or you can use that big one.
This big
one. Complaining or talking about Blossom End, and I understand completely because it is frustrating when you put so much time and effort into a growing tomato and let me show you that red one over there. Can I have that one, Blossom End? When it turns out looking like this right here. So, some of the misconceptions about Blossom End Rot is that I've seen a lot of people comment on is talking about add magnesium sulfate, Epsom salt. Add that and that will help with this right here. And that's totally a misnomer. Now, a Blossom End Rot is a complex problem that you have that causes that issue. Commonly what happens is the calcium is not there. Calcium is a atom, or it's actually a molecule in the soil that has a positive charge. Magnesium also has a positive charge in the soil. So you got magnesium and calcium, both of those are ions that have a positive charge. So what happens is you really want a good ratio of both of those in the soil, but if you have too much magnesium, it's going to repel the other one, so it's going to push out the calcium. Now your clay soils or your organic matter, your good compost, have a negative charge. So they're going to attract those calcium and magnesium ions. And that's one reason that when I put organic matter in my sandy soils that I do so much better, because it actually holds that calcium till that plant needs it. So if you got a very sandy soil, it's not going to hold that calcium. So if you got clay soils, which have a negative charge, or you have a lot of organic matter, compost that have a negative charge, they're going to attract that magnesium and that calcium and make it there available to the plant. The problem with calcium, lack of calcium is what causes this problem right here.
And you can correct that fairly quick if you notice tomatoes.
No, that's one of the problems.
That's what I'm learning.
That's one of the problems is it takes a comprehensive plan to start with to not have that. Calcium only moves in one direction. Now you've seen these sprays out there, these Blossom End Rot sprays where you spray the leaf on there and it's supposed to help. That's completely wrong. It does not help whatsoever because calcium will not move from an old leaf to a fruit. The only way it will move is from the root system through the xylem of the plant up into that fruit, into the leaves. So the only way you're going to get that calcium through that plant to the fruit is from the root system.
So I needed to do a sample soil test before I
A
planted.
soil sample would be good, but also you need to have a strategy to be able to make calcium available to that plant and in your soil load before when you plant your tomatoes. And being able to do that, you're assuring yourself of everything you can do. Now, there's some other factors that come into play out there. What if we run into a drought and your plants don't get any water? Well, they're not going to get any calcium because calcium is moved with the water. So you got to have frequent water.
Not a granule fertilizer.
Well, a granular calcium source. You got to have calcium load in your soil, and you got to be able to move that calcium throughout your plant. Now, if you do that, then you're going to do about all you can do. And at the end here, I'm going to give you a pretty comprehensive way of how I battle blossoming rot. But to move that calcium through the plant and not stress that plant is the only thing you can really do for blossoming rot. Besides this one last thing, and I have this. I've learned this year. There are certain varieties of tomatoes that are more predisposed than other varieties are for blossom end rot.
I'm glad you brought that up.
So this red snapper here, which is a large determinate tomato, I've always had more trouble with these type of tomatoes with blossom end rot than I do determinates. Now, I didn't have the first blossom end rot this year. And I think it's reason of a strategy that I have and plus growing these determinate tomatoes. But determinate tomatoes, normally speaking, do not have as much blossom end rot problems as your large determinate tomatoes do. And I say these large slicers, you know what I'm talking about there. So
my least favorite now.
Your least favorite now, that were favorite beforehand. Those seem to be the worst, and bell peppers also can have a problem with blossom end rot. Some of your peppers, I say bell peppers because that's normally the ones I notice it more on. Watermelons can also have a blossom end rot problems. We normally see it more so in those three crops there, and it's always due to calcium, moving that calcium through the soil, not stressing that plant. You can use some of these varieties that's not been proven. This is only Greg's thought here, but I think some of these indeterminates are going to be less problematic to have blossom end rot. I've never had blossom end rot on a Roma tomato. Never have I seen one on cherry tomato.
I just did raised beds this year. So my organic soil that I have, this is my first year of growing tomatoes. My first year of ever having blossom end rot. I never did a soil sample.
Right.
And I'm not the best on fertilizing. I get that. I just don't do it as much or as much as I should or need to.
Right.
So I know it was a soil deficiency that the plants weren't getting.
Right. Or it could have been there and you just didn't move through.
Yeah.
Now, magnesium sulfate added to Epsom salt, let me tell you something, it does absolutely nothing. Did you hear me? Nothing for blossom end rot. Magnesium has to do with the greenness of that leaf, transfer as a chlorophyll, and that whole process there, that's where magnesium comes into play. You can actually look at a plant when it's got a magnesium deficiency and see a yellow in that leaf, and you can say, well, that's a magnesium problem. I need to add magnesium sulfate. It has nothing to do with blossom end rot. Blossom end rot is caused from a calcium deficiency because calcium builds the cell walls in the fruit and also in the plant. What causes that tomato to stand up and be nice and strong is the cell wall of that plant is from calcium. And that's the same thing with tomatoes. When you get a nice, good, healthy skin on the outside of it there, that's because you got plenty of calcium there. It has nothing to do with magnesium. Magnesium is that process that makes that leaf nice and green and helps the energy move throughout that plant and that whole complex process. That's where magnesium is tied to. So for you folks out there that think you can add magnesium sulfate or you can spray a blossom end rot product on the leaves there, completely misnomer. So what's the strategy, would you say, Wayne? Would you like me to share that with you?
I do.
Okay.
Because I need to grow some good tomatoes.
First thing is, I always use a good compost. I add plenty of good compost underneath my soil. Now, if you don't have compost, then you can use something like we got, which is a complete organic fertilizer, and it's a hen manure. So therefore, it's loaded with calcium. But I use a good compost, pre-plant, incorporate it into my soil, and I use these complete organic fertilizer, and I put that in about a week to 2 weeks before I plant, and it gives it time to kind of settle in and start working. So, okay, the second thing I do is I always use drip irrigation. Because you want that irrigation underneath that plant, and you want to be, you'll find yourself not stressing that plant as much if it's easy to water. Right. So you want to make sure that that plant has got water when it needs it, and it's easy to do with drip irrigation. You just turn the valve on, and you can also shoot your nutrients through that as well. Number 3 is for my for my nitrogen source of my tomatoes, because a lot of times I will alternate a balanced fertilizer such as 20-20-20. And then I'll alternate just
use.
a straight nitrogen source. As that nitrogen source, I use calcium nitrate. And therefore you got nitrogen and you got calcium that you can move through that xylem up and get into that plant. So I use a comprehensive 2-step process of 20-20-20, and the next time I use calcium nitrate. And I always put micro boost in each application, and that's all your minor elements such as boron, magnesium, and all that kind of stuff. All right, number 4 is I broadcast gypsum, which here in the South we know is land plaster, but it's gypsum's what we sell is a pelletized gypsum. You can use land plaster if you live in an agriculture area that grows a lot of peanuts. You can go to the Farm Service Agency and you can buy bulk land plaster. But at first bloom set, I put copious amounts, and I say copious amounts, I'm talking about a good handful on each side of the plant of gypsum. Now let's just say that you was down and out on your luck a little bit and you was tight on money. Why couldn't you just simply use some drywall?
I'm glad you brought that up. You know I did that?
Yeah.
I tore out a wall in my house,
Right.
remodeled some, and I have some blueberries.
Yep.
Like gypsum.
Right.
I took the sheetrock and I lined my rows. It deteriorated, gave them what they needed,
Right.
and it kept the grass down.
So next time you
It don't
do that,
look good from Google Earth. You can see
yeah, but next time you do that, put a little bit back in your shop, and when your tomatoes start rolling around, take that gypsum and put on top of the ground out there. That is a great calcium source. A lot of people want to talk about using Tums. Well, why you want to go to the store and spend your hard-earned money on a little bitty thing of Tums when you can use some excess drywall?
Makes sense. I'm glad you said that.
So you can use that, or if you have to buy something, you can use pelletized gypsum. Basically the same thing, but you want to put a decent amount. You don't want to put it on one side of the plant because what's going to happen? It's just going to take it up on that one side of the plant. You want to make sure you put it all over the root of the plant there, and I like to put it on top of the soil. Now, if you're using drip irrigation and it turn off dry, you've got the water above to bring that
Gypsum
down into the root system. So you may have to do some overhead water and whatever to get that calcium through that xylem in the plant and move it up. So, and then, like I said, the overhead water a little bit there to get that in there. And the sprays, do not, I'll repeat this again, do not go off these little sprays that you buy that say blossom in right and you're going to spray the leaves.
with the pump thing.
If you're going to do anything, just pour it on the root system there. It's going to do a lot more good than that than it's spread on leaves. And do not use magnesium sulfate to combat blossoming rot cause. It does not work. It is simply a calcium problem, but the complexity to it is getting that calcium into the plant so that it gets to where it needs to be. How about that? Did that help some?
I learned a lot today.
Yep.
I'm glad I came and did this show.
Yep. Well, good deal.
I hope the viewers did because I did.
Yep. Well, that's, blossoming rot is something that every year we see people just go on and on about because it is, it's just like you. It's frustrating.
It is.
I mean, it really is. Yep. So what do you say? We'll sign off here and me and you dig into them right there.
You want me to hand it to you or you want to grab it?
So, folks, thank you for joining us. And hope you get out there and I hope you don't have a lot of blossoming rot. And I hope you have a nice tomato that you can sit down and share with your friends and family. Just like this right here. Now, it's time for you to get out there and get dirty.
Get dirty.